Welcome to your full moon forecast. My name is Adina. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and in this video, I will be going over the energy for the full moon that we are having in Cancer at 4 degrees, December 26th, 2023. For the first portion of this video, I will go through the chart for the full moon in Cancer, and then for the second portion of this video, I will get into all 12 rising signs. That way, you're able to see how this energy is showing up for you personally. So you can adjust the time for your location on the planet by putting the full moon at 4 degrees and 58 minutes. So for my location, it's at 7:33 p.m. on Boxing Day, December 26th. And so you can figure out, at what time that full moon will be exact by putting the moon at that 4 degrees and 58 minutes. Now, if you watch my content, I talk a lot about how when we're talking about the lunations, the intentions that you set at the time of the new moon in that sign tend to come to fruition at the time of the full moon in that same sign, or whatever was showing up for you at the time of the new moon. There's something culminating and coming to fruition around that story that was playing out or the direction that you were moving in. There's something coming in. And so, we had our new moon in Cancer July 17th of 2023. And so what was going on for you around the new moon in Cancer? That new moon in Cancer was sextiling Uranus and forming a trine to Neptune. And this shows that with this Cancer lunation, there was going to be some unexpected opportunities coming in. There may have even been room for spiritual growth with that trine to Neptune. There was definitely a leveling up of some kind. And so if you think back to summer of 2023, what were you moving through? What were you navigating, especially in the Cancer area of your life, of your chart? Generally speaking, Cancer can rule home, family, childhood. Cancer. And also when we have a Cancer moon, because the moon is the ruler of Cancer, this we have a Cancer full moon once a year. And this moon is extremely emotionally heightened. It's very receptive, very intuitive because the moon is extra potent. The moon is not only the focus here, but the ruler. So when we look at the chart here and we have this moon, we really want to focus in on what is the moon doing? What connections are the moon making? Is the moon making? And when we normally look at a chart when the moon is not the ruler, we always look at the moon and then plus the ruler of the moon, which is the ruler of that sign that the moon is in. And so the moon is extremely heightened, extremely powerful during a Cancer full moon. Now, the moon is forming a sextile to Jupiter, which I love, a trine to Saturn, which I love. Jupiter is forming a trine to the sun, or the sun is forming a trine to Jupiter. And Jupiter is also at this point getting ready to station direct because Jupiter is going to station direct on the 30th or 31st of December, depending on your time zone. And so this Jupiter here is not moving. So it brings in a very interesting energy. And how I look at this is that this is amazing opportunities for, there's an amazing opportunity coming in for some type of inner growth, like spiritual growth, internal growth of some kind that can really be grounded in, that you can really build some type of solid I get solid foundation, but when we're talking about internal growth, it's something you can really ground in to move forward, where it's not something that's just going to be in the moment or for the week or for the month. This is something coming in for you where you can now move forward in a new way, in a new light with this internal wisdom. So I really love that. And then not only, that, but we've got this trine to Saturn, which is adding to, this solid foundation that we're building here. Now, with the moon in Cancer, we can be talking a lot about, I feel like this is going to be very intuitive and emotional growth, where whatever you've been moving through emotionally, there definitely is a leveling up. But there is, some difficult energy here that we do want to cover because it does require that discernment. It requires that self-awareness. It requires you to get out of your head, to not overthink, to not allow this Mercury-Mars conjunction squaring Neptune to overcome this opportunity for growth. So we do want to be mindful at this time. We've been moving through so much Neptune energy. Neptune can bring it can be a mixed bag. Neptune's great for creativity and romance and spirituality and energy and, leveling up in that way. But Neptune can also bring illusion, delusion, and escapism. So as long as you can kind of have that self-awareness to be able to catch certain thoughts as they're coming in, transform them, transmute the energy. I mean, we have an opportunity here for amazing spiritual growth. We also have this Mercury Mars connecting to the nodes. So there is some potential here of releasing and letting go of something that you're done with, something you no longer want to experience, something you no longer want to carry along with you, especially when it has to do with your mindset and your belief systems. With this Mercury Mars conjunction in Sagittarius, Sagittarius has to do with our belief system. Sagittarius has to do with the bigger picture. And there's something here coming in to help you almost navigate whatever the challenges here that you're moving through and have been moving through with this Neptune energy. There is this opportunity for amazing growth and it's all internal, right? And this all has to do with you and inside of you, whether it's your thoughts. We've got Mercury retrograde, we've got Jupiter retrograde, and there's something here where if you can become aware of these parts of yourself that can get in your own way, and this can have to do with your values, right? Your personal values and your belief systems. We have Venus at 26 degrees of Scorpio, also trining that Neptune. And so there is this opportunity for spiritual growth. There is this opportunity for overcoming amazing obstacles, especially when it has to do with your mind, your mindset, and belief systems that have been getting in your own way in some way, shape, or form. This could be around money. This could be around your self-worth. Venus being in Scorpio brings in this ability to get to the root of the problem, to get to the bottom of your self-worth and low self-valuing issues, if that makes sense. Where you possibly too, even boundaries, right? Saturn being in Pisces, there is a lot here around boundaries, personal boundaries, especially connecting to that moon. Where have you been ignoring your own emotional needs for others? That can also be coming up at this time. Another thing that can be coming up at this time is childhood trauma. Cancer can have to do with, childhood and parents, family. And so there can be a lot at this time. And I feel like because it is, the Christmas season, it is the holiday. Sometimes when we have to connect with family members, it can be difficult, especially if you have a toxic family. And so that can be a thing that we're kind of navigating at this time. But, there's nothing wrong with developing and establishing your own personal boundaries that are, right for you. Especially if you deal with toxic family members, um, you know, putting yourself first is something that you have to work on, I feel like. And I don't know who this message is for, but I just got it. But putting yourself first is something that you really truly have to work on. Your emotional needs you have to have those boundaries to take care of yourself, or people are just going to walk all over you. And emotions are heightened at this time. Everybody is extremely emotional, and this is another thing too with this Mercury Mars conjunction is there can be a lot of fights, a lot of conflict, a lot of anger and aggression, and people can be reacting and responding, especially emotionally, without having all the facts, without having all the information. That's something else we really want to be mindful of at this time, is making sure that we're not reacting and responding before we have all the information. This is an energy of just sitting with it, just waiting it out, because there's something that will become a lot more clearer once Mercury stations direct, once Jupiter stations direct. There'll be more pieces to the puzzle here kind of fitting together. And people can be reacting and responding too quickly at this time. This entire week is, on the 26th, we've got the full moon in Cancer. On the 27th, we've got the Mercury Mars conjunction exact. On the 28th, we've got Mars squaring Neptune. So there's a lot of Neptune energy, and we're going to have the moon oppose Pluto, and then Venus form an exact sextile to Pluto right here. And so there is this like amazing opportunity for transformation, especially when it has to do with your values, how you feel about yourself, your self-worth, your self-love, and what you truly need on just a deep inner level, and getting in touch with that during this time. going within, if you have emotions arising or if something is showing up for you emotionally, sitting with that and figuring out what is the root of the problem here? Like, where is this coming from? Why is this coming up for me right now? What was the trigger? And how do I heal this? There's amazing opportunity here to heal and to grow and to really ground that in, like solidify this. I hope this makes sense, but like to not where it's just something you're moving through in the moment, but where you can heal and move forward in a new light, in a new way, almost like a new you. It's like a rebirth almost. And I talked about this in I think the video that I just posted, my recent one, how there is like this opportunity for deep inner transformation, starting the year off in this new light, in this new way, with this new you, with the sextile to Pluto, Venus being in Scorpio. And then once we get into the new year, there's so much new energy coming in. And yeah, it's going to be amazing. Um, the only way it's not amazing for you is if you don't like change. The only thing that is constant is change. And so learning to embrace the change, you'll be able to welcome these changes in a lot easier. And that's something we all have to do because our world is changing and is definitely going to change between now and 2030, which I will be making a forecast, getting into the energy between 2025 and 2030. And I'm so excited to do that. I'll be working on that. December's been a crazy month. Like, comment below if you've been moving through this crazy energy. I know we all have in our own way. But yeah, that Saturn station back in November, ever since then, there's been a lot showing up. There has been a lot showing up. And then with the Neptune station on the 6th and all this Neptune, Sagittarius energy, all this energy around belief systems changing. And then, becoming aware of old belief systems that were preventing you from moving forward, that were blocking you in some way. And so this full moon in Cancer is going to be extremely emotionally heightened. But if you have the discernment, if you have the self-awareness to pinpoint kind of what's showing up for you, why it's showing up for you, and getting to that root issue, which is that Venus and Scorpio, you really do have this amazing opportunity for spiritual growth. Like there's this deep inner wisdom coming in with this Jupiter retrograde. I really love this. So you'll get a better idea of how this is kind of showing up in your life once we get into the all 12 rising signs. But that's the main message I really wanted to put out, with this moon is we want to be watching our communication and conversations because a lot of people can be emotionally reacting and responding at this time based on belief systems. And then based on their own inner triggers kind of showing up, if you're able to have that self-awareness, there's room for amazing growth and transformation. So keep that in mind. All right, so I hope that helps you kind of navigate the energies of this full moon. And now let's get into all 12 rising signs. Aries, you have this full moon in Cancer happening in your fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate. Now, the full moon in Cancer is a very emotionally heightened energy, and you're ruled by Mars. So you can be very impatient, very impulsive. You currently have your chart ruler Mars forming a conjunction to Mercury in your ninth house of belief systems, higher knowledge, the bigger picture. So there can be a lot around your belief systems changing at this time. What I want you to be cautious of, though, and self-aware of is any self-sabotaging or self-undoing thoughts. Shifting your mindset at this time can really help in making this transition and transformation emotionally, intuitively, spiritually. We're going to have this Mars-Mercury conjunction in the ninth, forming a square to Neptune in your 12th, which the 12th house can rule self-undoing, self-sabotaging, karmic energy. And so we do want to be mindful of that at this time. What I do love here is that we have this Venus sextile to Pluto approaching, within days after this full moon, Venus ruling your second house of money, finances, and material possessions, personal values, in your seventh house of relationships and one-on-one connections. So there may be something showing up at this time where there's this beautiful energy for transformation in these areas of life, but it's where you have to overcome something around your mindset or around your belief systems in order to get there. And so being mindful of any escaping tendencies that you may have or self-undoing behaviors that can get in your own way, especially when it has to do with your thoughts and your mindset, is definitely going to be needed at this time. Taurus, you have this full moon in Cancer happening in your third house of community, neighbors, neighborhood, communication, mindset, vehicles, your day-to-day travels. Now, we had our new moon in Cancer back July of 2023. And so if you think of the intentions you were setting at that time or kind of what you were navigating back then, there can be something coming to fruition at the time of this full moon in Cancer. Now, this full moon in Cancer is very emotionally heightened. And because we have the Mercury Mars conjunction squaring Neptune, there can be a lot of reacting and responding emotionally, but without having all the facts, without having all the information. And you really want to be aware of this. We all want to be aware of this at this time. People can be reacting and responding, very, based strictly on emotions, not really what is actually factual. So we want to be mindful of that. Now, what I love here for you is because you have Jupiter currently transiting your first house, and this moon is sextiling Jupiter. So there is this amazing opportunity for personal growth here if you can overcome whatever this square is bringing up for you around your mindset, around this can even have to do with maybe friendships. Friends, Mercury and Mars, Mercury rules your second house of money and finances and your fifth house of romance, creativity, children. So there may be something showing up at this time too that you're having to overcome in these areas of life, or getting out of your own way, getting out of your head, where you can self-sabotage based on like obsessive thoughts and behaviors. And this is something we're kind of all navigating at this time with all this bloody Neptune energy. But it's going to be very heightened at this time. So we really want to be aware of this, that people are going to be reacting and responding very emotionally because of Neptune. There's something we're not seeing. There's something that is not clear just yet. And so this is very much an energy of just riding the wave. Now, this can also be, a lot of focus on these third house themes and topics, which again, it really can have to do with your mindset, your thoughts. So definitely be mindful of that. Gemini, you have this full moon in Cancer happening in your second house of money, finances, material possessions, personal values. And so there can be a lot of focus in this area of life. But if you think back to July of 2023, when we had the new moon in Cancer, what was showing up for you? What were you trying to initiate around money and finances or your personal values? Now is when you can see more to that story. You can see something coming to fruition in this area of life. What I do love here is Jupiter is currently transiting your 12th house of, spirituality, karmic energy, self-undoing, self-sabotaging. You can really become, you can be becoming aware of, that's what I'm trying to say, some self-undoing behaviors and patterns that you have. Jupiter can really be highlighting some of those for you so that you can, transform that and grow on such a deep level. And this full moon in Cancer can really highlight that for you. So, you want to be aware of and because too, like we have this Mercury Mars conjunction in Sagittarius, which is in your seventh house of relationships, there could be a lot of conflict at this time that you want to be mindful of because of the square to Neptune. There's something you're not seeing clearly. A lot of this is a very emotionally heightened moon, and a lot of people are going to be reacting and responding very emotionally, but without having all the facts, without having all the information. So we want to be cautious at this time of not just reacting and responding impulsively or emotionally. This is an energy of riding the wave. Cancer, this is your full moon. That is in your first house, which is of the self, you, your personality, your character, your physical body. And if you think back to your new moon in Cancer, that was July 17th, 2023, what intentions were you setting back then? What were you navigating at that time? There can be more coming in for you. There can be something coming to fruition around a specific direction that you were moving in or some changes that you were making to the self. Now, with this full moon, this is a very emotionally heightened full moon. And so because we have this, I mean, we have this beautiful sextile to Jupiter, which is in your 11th house of hopes and dreams and friends and friendships and social groups. But we also have this Mercury Mars conjunction, which is going to be in your sixth house of work, health, and daily routine, forming a square to Neptune. And so there's going to be a lot of people kind of emotionally reacting and responding at this time that we just want to have that mindfulness and self-awareness because of that square to Neptune, we want to be careful that we are not just reacting emotionally based on just emotions. Nobody has all the information at this time. Nobody has all the facts. So we have to be cautious of that, of like reacting and responding too quickly. This is an energy of riding the wave. This is also an energy of becoming aware of your own self-deprecating thoughts and behaviors, escapism tendencies with that Mercury square to Neptune. This is where we can be overthinking. We can be having a lot of self-undoing and self-deprecating thoughts that can get in our own way. And with the energy that's kind of all playing out at this time, there is this amazing opportunity for internal growth, but it really does need us to have that self-awareness and to become aware of these parts of ourselves where we can get in our own way. And so having that awareness at this time is going to be key in navigating this energy. But this is a beautiful time for you to there's going to be a lot of focus on you and the direction that you want to take come 2024. Leo, you have this full moon in Cancer happening in your 12th house of spirituality, places that are hidden. The 12th house does tend to suppress energy. This energy is also very karmic. There can be a lot of self-undoing and self-sabotaging behaviors highlighted at this time, and we're all navigating this. And this is something I've talked about with all of the signs. But for you, because it's in the 12th house, there's something really being highlighted here. Now, we had our new moon in Cancer July 17th, 2023. So if you think back to July of 2023, what were you moving through or what intentions were you setting? There can be more focus around that. But this is really a time, we've got this sextile to Jupiter, which is up here in Taurus in your 10th house. And there's this amazing opportunity for some inner growth, spiritual growth. Once you become aware of, these parts of yourself where you can get in your own way, you can transmute that, transform that, and really grow on just such a deep level. So I love that. And this is something we're all navigating. But for you, because this full moon is in your 12th house, there is a lot of self-undoing behaviors being highlighted right now on where you can self-sabotage or where you can escape, and just not face things head on. And so having that self-awareness at this time is definitely going to be key. Virgo, you have this full moon in Cancer happening in your 11th house of friends and friendships, social groups, online connections, networking, hopes, and dreams. Now, we had our new moon in Cancer back in July of 2023. So if you think back to the intentions you were setting at that time, now is when there could be more focus around that. Now is when you can see those intentions come to fruition. Either way, this 11th house is heightened up, and heightened up. This 11th house is there's a lot of focus on friends. There's a lot of focus on networking. There's a lot of focus on social groups. But this full moon in Cancer is very emotionally heightened. There's a lot of emotions right now. And because we've got a Mercury Mars conjunction right here in your 4th house, squaring Neptune in the 7th, there can be a lot of conflict at this time. You want to be careful of any self-deprecating thoughts, getting in your own way, overthinking. That can really be heightened at this time. And it can really be highlighted too of where that shows up for you, why, what triggers that, and how to navigate that. With this sextile to Jupiter, we have this amazing opportunity for inner growth, whether it's internal wisdom or spiritual wisdom, or, there is this opportunity for growth. We also have a trine to Saturn in your seventh house of relationships. So there could be a lot around relationships heightened at this time, but maybe where you can get in your own way when it has to do with relationships, whether it has to do with your own personal values, maybe your lack of self-worth, which can be transformed with this Venus sextile to Pluto. Once we reach kind of the end of this week, of the time of this full moon, there's that sextile between Venus and Pluto is going to come exact the 28th of December. And because Venus rules your second house of values, your personal values, and Jupiter being in your ninth house of belief systems, there could be something really changing here for you around your self-worth or personal boundaries. Maybe where you've given too much of yourself away. These full moons in Cancer, and this can even have to do with home, with family, right? Cancer is just generally speaking is an energy of home and family. This can be where you're becoming aware of and developing your own personal boundaries within those one-on-one connections in your life, whether it be love partnerships or just family. Libra, you have this full moon in Cancer happening in your 10th house of career and public reputation. So if you think back to July of 2023, when we had our new moon in Cancer, what intentions were you setting, or what was showing up for you around your public image and around your career? Now is when you can see, something coming to fruition around this area of life. Either way, though, there's a lot of focus on your career and public image at this time. Now, when we have a full moon in Cancer, emotions are heightened. It's very receptive, very intuitive energy. But what I want to cover in this forecast is the fact that we've got this Mercury-Mars conjunction, which is in your third house, which can have to do with your communication and your mindset, squaring Neptune, which is in your sixth house. But this is where you can really become aware of these thoughts that you can have that can get in your own way, your lack of self-worth. You have Venus transiting your second house of values, which is going to form a sextile to Pluto on the 20th of December. There's something you can transform here around your self-worth, your self-love, your personal values, belief systems as well. So I really, really love that for you. And also too, having Jupiter transiting the eighth house, which which is a very psychological energy. So Jupiter can be bringing in a lot of internal wisdom when it has to do with your mental health, when it has to do with your psychology, right? Like your way of thinking, your mindset. And there can be a lot heightened at this time around your self-worth and your self-love, and where you can get in your own way due to, your own negative self-talk, if that makes sense. Scorpio, you have this full moon in the ninth house of belief systems, higher education, higher knowledge, higher wisdom, a higher knowing, the bigger picture. Now, if you think back to July of 2023, when we had our new moon in Cancer, what intentions were you setting at this time? What was showing up for you? What were you navigating? There can be more to, that story. This is a time where you can start to see certain things come to fruition around whatever you were starting back in July of 2023. Now, this being in your ninth house, these ninth house themes and topics are highlighted because you're having the full moon in the ninth house. So there can be a lot around belief systems at this time showing up for you and being highlighted, and possibly, belief systems that are just no longer in alignment. This can also be a refresher, like a refreshing of these belief systems. Now, we have Mercury and Mars in your second house of money, finances, and material possessions, forming this conjunction and then forming a square to Neptune. And I've been saying this to all of the signs. We really have to be cautious of our conversations, our negative self-talk, self-undoing behaviors. Neptune can make things cloudy, can bring in escapism. And so we do want to be mindful at this time of, any negative self-talk or self-undoing behavior. And especially having the second house also really like belief systems, or not belief systems, your personal values. There can be something showing up and being highlighted at this time that's shifting your values in some way, or how you feel about yourself and how you want to connect to others. You have Jupiter transiting your seventh house of relationships, which is forming a sextile to this moon. So there can be something very beautiful showing up for you around your one-on-one connections. But maybe where you get in your own way when it has to do with relationships due to a lack of self-worth or self-love. So Yeah, definitely be mindful of this. There can be something highlighted at this time coming to your awareness, showing you where you can get in your own way, especially around, um, yeah, relationships and those one-on-one connections. Sagittarius, you have this full moon happening in your eighth house of your partner's finances, money coming in from outside resources, taxes, inheritance, psychological healing and transformation, death, rebirth. The eighth house covers all of those themes and topics. And so there's something around those themes and topics being highlighted at this time. There might be something showing up around your partner's finances or money coming in from outside resources. But if you think back to the new moon that we had in Cancer, July of 2023, were there any intentions you were setting at this time? At that time, what direction were you moving in? What were you trying to get going? There can be something coming to fruition in this area of life at the time of the full moon in Cancer. Now, one thing I've been covering with all the signs is, some of this outside influence, the energetic influence we have going on, which is, you currently have Mercury and Mars transiting your first house. And so there can be a lot around your mindset that you're kind of navigating right now. There can be a lot of intense energy around negative self-talk. There can definitely be something highlighted at this time, especially with that moon in the eighth house, which can have to do with mental health and be very psychological. There could be something showing up at this time, highlighting where you get in your own way, where you self-sabotage, where you can self-undo, or where you can escape. You really want to be mindful at this time. But what I love is that Jupiter's transiting your sixth house of work, health, and daily routine, forming a sextile to this full moon. So there might be some beautiful supportive energy coming in or some type of intuitive download where you have a better understanding of what you need to do on a day-to-day basis and a routine, like a new routine to help your mental health, to help and aid your mindset and shift that in some way. Capricorn, you have this full moon in Cancer happening in your seventh house of relationships and one-on-one connections. Now, if you think back to July 17th, 2023, when we had our new moon in Cancer, what intentions were you setting at that time? What were you trying to get going? What direction were you moving in? There can be something, coming to fruition around relationships, around one-on-one connections. Now, this full moon in Cancer is very emotionally heightened. Now, you tend to be someone that can, contain your emotions quite well. But this is, we're at the time of this full moon, we're going to have Mercury, Mars in your 12th house. Now, the 12th house can rule self-undoing behavior, self-sabotaging, escapism. The 12th house also suppresses energy. So there might be a lot around your mindset that you're moving through at this time, self-undoing behavior, self-sabotaging that can be highlighted. There is a square to Neptune. So self-awareness is key. Having the self-awareness to be able to catch these negative thoughts as they come in so that you can shift and change this is going to be, and this is important for everybody, not just you. It's something we're all kind of navigating at this time. But Jupiter is forming a sextile to this full moon and is currently in your fifth house of romance and passion and pleasure. And I really love this because it's almost like if you lean towards what you love doing, what brings joy and happiness to you, there is this amazing opportunity to transform something on an internal and mental level, mental health wise, psychologically, where you can transmute and transform, become aware of, what triggers the negative self-talk, what triggers these self-deprecating thoughts and self-undoing behaviors, and transform that. And that can be heightened, that can be highlighted at this time. So have that self-awareness so you can catch this as this comes in and transform. Aquarius, you have this full moon in Cancer happening in your sixth house of work, health, and daily routine. So those themes and topics are going to be highlighted at the time of this full moon. Now, if you think back to July 17th of 2023, when we had our new moon in Cancer, what intentions were you setting at that time? What were you trying to get going? What direction were you moving in? There can be something coming to fruition at this time, that you were kind of starting back 6 months ago. Now, this full moon in Cancer is very emotionally heightened. I've been going through this with all the signs. This is a time where we don't want to be reacting or responding emotionally. We have Mercury and Mars in Sagittarius, which is right up here in your 11th house of friends and friendships, online connections. We definitely want to be watching your social media at this time. Don't just be mindful of the comments that you're kind of leaving because this is like an energy of somebody taking something you say the wrong way and coming for you. So definitely be mindful of that. That was a little off topic, but the thing with this energy here is that Mercury and Mars is in Sagittarius in your 11th house, forming a square to Neptune. And this is something that we're all navigating where there's a lot around self-undoing and self-sabotaging behaviors showing up, and something can really be highlighted the week of this full moon. However, with the self-awareness, we're able to transmute and transform and pinpoint what exactly this is and what triggers this self-undoing behavior or this negative self-talk. Now, we do want to be mindful of reacting and responding just based on emotions and not having all the facts, not knowing all the information, because that can definitely be a thing at this time. But just having the self-awareness, and also too, you have Jupiter in Taurus in your fourth house of home and family. So home and family can definitely be heightened at this time. Something showing up around home and family conflict within the home could be a thing, but there can even just be changes, even expansion within the home could actually be a thing too at this time. Pisces, they're having this full moon in Cancer in your fifth house of children, creativity, passion, pleasure, play, romance, hobbies, interests. So all of those themes and topics are heightened at the time of this new full moon, in Cancer. Now, if you think back to July 17th, 2023, when we had the new moon in Cancer, what intentions were you setting at this time? What were you trying to start? What were you moving through? There can be more to that showing up for you. There can be something coming to fruition, especially around children, around creative ventures, around your hobbies or your interests or something that you are very deeply passionate about. Now, this full moon in Cancer is very emotionally heightened, and this full moon in Cancer is also forming a trine to your first house. And so there can be a lot here around emotions, intuition. It's a very receptive energy. We have Jupiter forming, we have this sextile forming to Jupiter here in your third house of community, neighbors, but I really feel like there's a lot here around like mindset and communication. I've been going through this with all the signs because Mercury and Mars is forming a conjunction in Sagittarius, which is in your 10th house. But then there's this square to Neptune in your first. So there's a lot here around like self-undoing, self-sabotaging behaviors, negative self-talk, self-undoing, thoughts, and having the self-awareness to catch that as it comes in, like when you start to have these, negative thoughts, to catch, what triggers that, why is this coming in, and transform that on just such a deep level. And we have so much supportive energy for that. So I'm telling all the signs, this is a time where self-undoing is at its peak with all this Neptune energy. And we have to have the self-awareness because this is a time where we can really pinpoint and become aware of these self-undoing behaviors and thoughts and transform them on such a deep level